Godzilla movies are pretty awesome. Video games, however, are a mixed bag. Some of them are great. Some aren't. Maybe most. It's time to take a look at some Godzilla games. Now, this isn't all the Godzilla games, but just the ones that I own. And let me tell you, I own a lot. So join me as I take you through 17 Godzilla games based off of the eponymous franchise. And maybe we'll answer the question, are there any good Godzilla games? Well, there's only one way to find out, and that way is to start with the oldest Godzilla game I happen to own. I thought it'd be fun to go through the Godzilla games in chronological order, just so we could see a progression of the games over the years. The evolution, if you will. And keep in mind, I'll try to be as objective as possible, but also try to use some context too for these games, especially the older ones. So, let's start this video with a bang! Alright, here we go. Godzilla Monster of Monsters is the first game on our list. Coming out in 1988 for the NES, it's one of the earliest Godzilla games ever. I don't own an NES, but I do have this thing, the Retro Duo. This bad boy can play NES games and also can play Super Nintendo and Super Famicom games too. This thing is perfect for retro gaming. So let's pop this bad boy in. So here, you control Godzilla and Mothra and move them across a cosmic chessboard filled with planets like Mars, Jupiter, and even Planet X. There are 8 worlds in total, each split into multiple stages with boss fights against classic monsters at the end of each world. For each space you go on, you face a bunch of generic enemies. Makes you wish the developers were a little more creative in this regard. Also, Godzilla and Mothra can only move 2 spaces per turn. After you do a level on the spot you landed on, the enemy has a counter turn. When you are next to a monster, the game asks you if you'd like to fight the enemy. Like there's a choice. But there isn't, so why even ask if you want to fight? This game includes a whole lot of monsters, even the obscure ones. The game has Ghidorah, Mogira, Varan, Hedorah, Baragon, Gigan, Mechagodzilla, and King Ghidorah. And you know what? They all look pretty good. Let's talk about Godzilla and Mothra now. I find myself only using Godzilla because he's the best to use out of the both. Godzilla is pretty strong, and he can use his signature atomic breath. Mothra is just terrible. She's too weak. Her attacks aren't strong at all, and her special move is her shedding the scales off of her wings or something. I don't know what it is. I call it the Rolling Thunder move. Yeah, you know, like how the jets in Vietnam would drop a bunch of bombs in a row. It's useful against the enemies, but not the monsters. And what makes Mothra so useless is anytime she gets hit, she sinks to the floor of the map. Every single time. It's so annoying that even the smallest of hits send her flying to the floor, like there's a line yanking her down. She really is unplayable because there are so many enemies in the air that are constantly shooting projectiles at you. Speaking of projectiles, there's this one thing that is the worst enemy in the game. This. I don't know what it is. This stupid fireball is so cryptic. It can actually take out almost all of your health. It cannot be destroyed. You just have to pray it misses you. I hate this thing so much because it usually appears at the end of the level right before the boss. So the game decides to pull a little prank by sending this flaming devil at you just to screw you and your health over right before a boss. Pretty messed up if you ask me. There's also an annoying timer for each boss fight. It's not a problem in the early levels, but let me tell you, the timer becomes a problem when you fight the monsters on the later levels when they're stronger. And annoyingly enough, you don't see the stupid timer at all, so you don't know how much time you're working with. And what's even more annoying, if you can believe that, is that when the timer ends the fight, the enemy gets back some health, but you don't. How's that fair? But by far, the most cryptic thing in the game is the monsters beating you up in the corner. The worst offender is Ghidorah. That 3-headed schmuck will take out so much of your health by just cornering you. And you can't do anything when you're pinned. You just take it. You can't move, you can't attack. You are at the mercy of the monster being kind and backing off after you just shanked you in the corner. The final battle with Ghidorah is pretty hard. I'm not a pro in this game by any means, but Ghidorah really is a demon. I kept on losing to him because he would trap me into the corner every time and take out so much health. Once Godzilla dies, the game makes you use Mothra, and at that point you might as well just reset the game because Mothra is useless. But then something hit me. I had an idea.
Jim
Mothra
must die.
With this sudden realization, I decided to send Mothra in first, take out some of Ghidorah's health, let her die, and then bring in Godzilla. Even if Mothra takes out a little health, it's still helping. So on my second attempt, with my new plan, I finally slaughtered Ghidorah, and Mothra finally had a purpose in this game. All in all, Monster of Monsters is fine. For its time, it's ambitious, the boss battles are cryptic and unfair, but the sprite work is pretty impressive, and the gameplay's fine. And hey, NECA even made a figure based off a Godzilla sprite from this game, which is a pretty cool tribute. Also, for a couple of Godzilla games, especially the earlier ones, I have these custom covers, I think, from Etsy. I don't remember where exactly I got them from, but these are great, because up until the GameCube, game boxes for Nintendo were always in cardboard or paper. So this is pretty cool. Gives you a nice place to put the manual, too. Up next is Godzilla on the original Game Boy. For this game, I'm using my GameCube Game Boy adapter. It actually makes the game look a lot better than the Game Boy's monochrome visuals. In this game, Minya has been captured and Godzilla has to traverse through 64 levels of puzzle-filled fun. Godzilla's design is like the super deformed look, or chibi as they call it, and he spits out a boxing glove instead of his atomic breath. Sure, why not? The game features a lot of enemy monsters like Ghidorah, Rodan, and Gearus, but here they call him Angulus, Baragon, Mechagodzilla, Ghidorah, and so on. The monsters in the roll call in the beginning and the cutscenes all look pretty good, especially for the very limited Game Boy. The game is surprisingly kind of fun. Like I said, it's a puzzle game. You move through each level, destroy boulders, and punch enemies with your spring-loaded glove. Most monsters do respawn, so it's more about dodging and solving than full combat. Ghidorah is by far the most annoying because you can't kill him with your boxing glove. You can only push away that pile of trash. Yeah, back to the sewer for you, buddy. Admittedly, I didn't play through all the levels, only because we have a lot of games to get through, but from what I played, it was pretty solid. It's definitely a change of pace from Godzilla Monster of Monsters, which, unfortunately, kind of becomes a trend with the Godzilla games that followed. Foreshadow! Here is Godzilla 2, War of the Monsters on the NES. Now before we get to the actual game, this one has been pretty hard for me to get a hold of for a long time. For one, it's really expensive on eBay. This game goes for the hundreds just used. And I know I can get an emulated version of it, but I'm a collector. I gotta have the real thing. So here it is. The game cover on the cartridge looks great, taken from the poster from Return of Godzilla. Surely the game fixed some problems from Godzilla Monster of Monsters, right? No, what is this? Select a scenario? Yeah, there are 12 different scenarios you could choose from, with each one having different monsters you have to defend the area from. Let's go with scenario 1, where Godzilla and Baragon appear. Alright, I don't know what I'm doing. You move your weapons, like jets and tanks, over to the monsters to fight. You have to do a slot machine to attack? Sure, I guess, why not? I also didn't really play that much of this game, only because it kinda was a buzzkill. You don't play as Godzilla, you fight against him as people. I don't want a Godzilla game like that. With the slot machine, I kept on missing Godzilla somehow. But here, I got all three right. That was definitely the most exciting part of me recording this game. Okay, here is scenario 12, the conclusive battle. Ooh, what kind of challenge is it gonna be? Oh my god, there's 3 monsters. I don't really know what I'm doing in here, just moving around. Oh look, Godzilla's here too. And now a UFO? Yeah, I really don't know what I'm doing. Now I probably should have referred to the manual to explain to me what is going on, but I don't know, I just didn't have it in me. This game and another one that we'll get to are the only ones that I really didn't do like a deep playthrough. Overall, the game absolutely does not live up to its price. It's too expensive to be this confusing and dull. Maybe if I dedicate an entire episode just to this, I could get into it more, but as it stands, it's a bizarre outlier in the Godzilla game lineup, and one I just couldn't connect with. Moving on to Super Godzilla. Now we're on the Super Nintendo. Godzilla looks and sounds great in this game. And that's really the only positive. Here, we control Godzilla by moving this blue dot on the map. You follow the arrow on the bottom half of the screen that says course. You move in whatever direction the arrow is pointing to. It's a strange way to start a Godzilla game, but surely the combat has to be better, right? Right? The combat is like anything I've ever seen before, even for a Godzilla game. So here, this guy is telling you how to fight. You have to run in, punch Ghidorah here, slide back, select a move, and then click it. What? What? Why can't it just be regular combat? There's this talk of lowering the fighting spirit. That's just a bunch of garbage. For the life of me, I was actually trying. My brain couldn't comprehend how these controls and gameplay worked. Why did they have to make it so complex? Worst of all, the three-headed schmuck is faster than you, so even if you hit him and try to run back like you're supposed to, he rushes you and attacks first. I don't even think I hit this guy once. Screw this. Now, if you are curious, I would recommend watching playthroughs of the game if you want to see more. You fight a bunch of monsters such as Ghidorah, Batra, Mechagodzilla, Biollante, and even Bagan. Yeah, the monster reject who Toho tried to put in movies since the 80s. Also, the design of Super Godzilla was the basis for Space Godzilla, who would debut a year later. All in all, I didn't care for this game. Aside from the truly great visuals and music, especially for its time, this game is dragged down by confusing and sluggish gameplay. Not a fan. Remember when I said there was another game I didn't really play? Yeah, this is the game. Not for me. Okay, here we have our first Japan exclusive, Godzilla Kaiju Daikessen, which translates to Godzilla Destroy All Monsters on the Super Famicom. Finally, we have a Godzilla game where you only fight monsters. Only took him a bunch of tries. This game is tournament style, like Mortal Kombat. I'm pretty bad at those particular games because I just don't know the inputs to execute the moves. I definitely should have looked up the move list for the monsters, but I still would have played bad anyway. I'm also doing this on easy mode too. Now this is a Godzilla game. You play as 9 monsters: Godzilla, Megalon, Mechagodzilla, Mechagodzilla 2, Anguirus, Mothra, Biollante, Gigan, and Ghidorah. Oddly enough, there are 2 secret characters that you can unlock by doing a specific code at the menu. You should hear a Godzilla roar and a Godzilla's atomic breath if done right. You can play as Super Mechagodzilla and the Gotengo? Yeah, I'm not kidding. You can play as the ship from Archipelago, but only in versus mode. The gameplay is a lot of fun, even if I didn't know what I was doing. Here I was playing as Megalon because he's my favorite Godzilla monster. Man, this game just looks and sounds great. I can imagine for 1994, this game would have been every Godzilla fan's dream. Even if it only came out in Japan. It has the music, the location from the movies, it has just about everything you could want. Maybe it could have had a bigger roster, but all in all, this is a good Godzilla game. Simple, but effective. No stupid military strategy or some clown yelling at you to lower the enemy's fighting spirit or whatever. And yes, I am aware that this game was teased in an issue of Nintendo Power, where it was slated for an American release, but that never happened. Now this is only going to be a brief mention because I do own the game, but I do not own a Japanese Sega Saturn to play it. But this is Godzilla Archipelago Shock. From what I can tell by just looking at the cover, it says Real-Time Monster Attack Simulation. So it's probably very similar to Godzilla 2 for the NES. What fun. You are again defending Japan from Godzilla and his friends, and you control the military. Judging from the instruction manual, you can control the Super X, the Heisei Mechagodzilla, and even Mogira, I think. You might be a little disappointed that I'm only mentioning this game, but I'll probably do a follow-up to the series and cover Godzilla games that I mentioned or missed entirely. I'll definitely cover this game if I do that. Moving on. Up next is Godzilla Generations on the Sega Dreamcast. To my knowledge, this is the first and only time a Godzilla game was a launch title for a console. But it was only released in Japan, so that means this game won't work for an American Dreamcast. I'm such a big Godzilla fan, I actually own a Japanese Dreamcast just so I can play 2 Godzilla games. I never had a Dreamcast before, so it's kind of novel to have it now. I did grow up a Nintendo boy. Anyways, this game is something else. You play as Godzilla as you go through 11 different stages across Japan. Objects you have to destroy are represented by these gray dots here on the map. The goal is to get 100% destruction completion before the timer runs out. But as you can see, there are 2 major problems with this game. The first is the camera. It is a fixed angle. You cannot control or move it at all. The camera angle changes as Godzilla walks around, which leads into the second major problem, the pace. Godzilla is really slow, which is accurate to the movies, but you have to make the game a little more exciting. Going back to the camera issue, maybe the developers wanted to have a system where you could control the angle freely. But because the Dreamcast does only have one D-pad on the controller, it made it impossible. If it had something like the N64 controller, then they definitely could have pulled this off, or at least fixed that major issue. The graphics don't really bother me like some people. Listen, it's from 1998, it looks fine. Godzilla's thighs do look a little big though, like Shin Godzilla's. If you want to get through the levels faster, I did find it easy to destroy about 60% of the map, go out of bounds, and then the game will take you to the next level after having this alarm go off for being out of the area. It really cuts down a lot of the time doing this. You also lose health from destroying buildings, but a quick roar from Godzilla restores a little bit of health. You will find yourself roaring a lot in the later stages when tanks and jets are constantly hitting you. Now if you're 100% purist for each map, you'll find it annoying that some objects you have to destroy are deliberately put out of bounds. So you have to go out of bounds, get your ears assaulted by the alarm, and then make it back, all while Godzilla is moving at a snail's pace. The game also utilizes some music from the Godzilla movies, such as the song that plays in the credits of Godzilla vs. Destoroyah, and the song that plays in The Return of Godzilla when Godzilla first appears in the bay. I know there are some other songs from the original Godzilla movie, so I really hope to God that Toho doesn't copyright claim this video for the music. After you complete the 11 levels with Godzilla, you unlock another Godzilla, hence the generations. You can unlock the original Godzilla, the TriStar American Godzilla, simply called Godzilla USA here, the original Mechagodzilla, Minya, and Dr. Serizawa? What? Yeah, you can actually play as Dr. Serizawa. He waddles around holding the oxygen destroyer and shoots a laser that comes out from his eye patch. This is actually really awesome. When your yellow meter is full, you can unleash a special attack. Dr. Serizawa here unleashes the power of the oxygen destroyer, a power which he really wanted to suppress and even died for in the original movie. Sure. Zilla can run around really fast, Minya goes on a little rampage, and Mechagodzilla unleashes his flurry of moves like his chest beam, eye lasers, and even finger missiles. Godzilla's ability is to unleash his spiral heat ray. I find myself having the most fun when I play as Zilla. His quick movements really help get through the levels faster. And really, when else can you play as Zilla? It is also cool to play as Minya, but he's objectively the worst to play as. He's slow, small, and his atomic rings attack moves so slow. He was definitely added in this game as a joke, there's no doubt in my mind. Should've added Godzilla Jr. instead. Dr. Serizawa is also fun to play as, and it's really only because of how ridiculous it is. His roar is him praying. Now that is amazing. There's also this Godzilla Coliseum thing that you can play if you have the Godzilla VMU that is required, which I do have. It looks like this. I really don't know how it works, and that's really because I don't read Japanese too well. And lastly, the game has 16 original Godzilla trailers that you can play. But the trailers for the first two Godzilla movies are missing, which is a little odd. You'd think they'd have the original one at the very least. Overall, how is Godzilla Generations? I think it's not that good, and I can see why it was hated when it came out. The gameplay is slow and very repetitive, and the camera angles are objectively terrible. The novelty of playing as Zilla, Manila, and Dr. Serizawa cannot save this game, and it's a shame. I did have a little fun playing it though. Check it out if you want. Next is Godzilla Generations Maximum Impact, another sequel to another game. So did they listen to the criticism of the last game? Oh my god, what is this? So yeah, this is the game. It's an on-rails shooter, which means you can't control Godzilla's movements, but you do control the little reticle to destroy enemies. I guess their way of listening to the criticisms of Godzilla Generations was to make a sequel that is virtually different in every way? Well, that's certainly a strategy, and you can only play as Godzilla in this one. You go through 6 levels, with each level having 2 parts. The first is the on-rails shooter, where you destroy military vehicles, buildings, and even dodge projectiles. Once you get to the end of the stage, the next part is the boss battle. You can fight Biollante, Ghidorah, Mothra, SMG second? The hell is this? I know it's Super Mechagodzilla 2, but it lacks creativity. It looks like a Yu-Gi-Oh card. Continuing, you fight MGR second, which is Mogira version 2, Space Godzilla, Super X3, and Destroya. Let's talk about the bosses. The boss battles are okay. You have to move your reticle to attack the monster. The longer you hold down the A button, the more powerful Godzilla's atomic breath is. So Biollante was pretty easy, just destroy her little heads and hit her. She doesn't really put up a fight. Ghidorah was a little more annoying. All you have to do is just quickly target his heads and you're fine. Next is Mothra, and when I was fighting her for the first time, I didn't know what to do when I destroyed her wing. She's just laying there on the ground. I would charge up to blast her right in the face, but here you can see a very annoying and really frustrating mechanic this game has. When Godzilla gets hit by a strong attack, he does this awkward animation where he just freezes and then face plants into the ground. It's really annoying because this feels like it lasts forever, and he does it every single time he gets hit by a strong attack. I cannot stress that enough. Every single time! I would much rather stagger back and take the damage. Godzilla going limp and then falling over breaks up the pace of the fight you're in. Seriously, who thought of that? That's so lame. So back to Mothra. I just blasted her the second time around and killed her swiftly. Next is Super Mechagodzilla 2, and he wasn't too bad. He was just really fast and he was doing donuts around me. Same thing for Mogira 2, but the real frustration was about to begin. Stage 5-2 Fukuoka was the most cryptic stage I faced so far in the game. There's crystals everywhere, and when you get hit by them, it does a lot of damage, and they move so fast. It's really hard to lock onto all of them with the reticle. When you get hit by one, it makes you stagger back, and you can't lock on fast enough for the second one. Worst of all, your targeting reticle disappears briefly, so you can't even defend yourself, and then you get hit again. And they do so much damage. It's really messed up. After failing 3 times, I devised a new strategy. Constantly and blindly spam the atomic breath. And this actually worked really well. When you spam the atomic breath, just move the joystick around to clear your path. You'll get hit now and then, but you mostly get rid of those stupid crystals. One thing I didn't mention is that whatever health you finish with during the first shooter stage, you keep it going into the boss battle. So if you have low health going into the boss battle, you're screwed. Luckily, if you die, you restart the boss battle with full health. You also get 5 tokens per stage, which is really just 5 lives. And yes, it's per stage, not for the whole run. But boy, did I not know what awaited me next. Space Godzilla is a piece of garbage waiting to be picked up by the garbage man. This guy is so unfair, it's not even funny. He's really fast, and worst of all, you can't keep your distance from him because he uses the most unfair move in the game, his telekinetic beam. The computer AI waits for you to use the atomic breath, and then it catches you when you are most vulnerable. It comes out too fast, and it has insane reach. It does so much damage to you too, and Godzilla is also too slow to move out of the way. If there was a button you could hit to quickly get Godzilla to dive or something, then it'd be more manageable. But no, I stand there like an idiot and there's nothing I can do about it. Space Godzilla killed me all 5 times and then I rage quit. Screw him. I'm done with the game. At that point, I was playing for well over an hour and I didn't want to restart. If I could just start at Space Godzilla, then maybe, just maybe I'd play again. But to go through the monotonous on-rail shooter levels, it just was not worth it. All in all, this game is not good. It is better graphically than the first Godzilla generations, but this feels like an arcade game and not a console game. Even the music sounds like it belongs in arcade. I don't know if this is better than Godzilla Generations. At least that game didn't get me mad like this one. It's not the worst thing, but it does have its own set of problems. Moving on. Up next is Godzilla the series for the Game Boy Color, based on the animated show that followed the infamous 1998 movie, which I do own the DVD set for, but I've never gotten around to seeing it. The game follows Godzilla Jr. in a side-scrolling adventure where you fight other monsters across 11 levels. As you can see, you cannot control Godzilla's movement, only the angle of his head where you can aim and shoot fireballs at the enemies. You can also use your tail as an attack, and if you hold the left arrow on the D-pad, Godzilla can guard, which prevents damage as long as your guard meter is full. If the meter isn't fully recharged, you're vulnerable. Godzilla can also stomp, which does destroy all the enemies on the floor. So how is the game? To be honest, this is my first time playing it ever, and I didn't really enjoy it. For its time, I'm sure it was fine, but playing it now, it just feels boring and uninspired. There's absolutely zero variety in each level. The terrain is just a flat straight line. No hills, slopes, or even other obstacles. Godzilla walks forward and you shoot. That is it. It gets monotonous pretty fast, and I honestly didn't even feel much motivation to keep going. Controlling the head angle is also pretty sluggish, and this leaves you open to enemy fire more than you'd like. Ironically, for a version of Godzilla that was supposed to be fast and agile, he moves incredibly slow here. At the end of the day, Godzilla the series might have been fun back in 1999, but now it's just too simple and too slow to offer much enjoyment, outside of the novelty of being based off the TV show.
Next.
In 2000, we got this, a direct sequel called Godzilla the Series Monster Wars on the Game Boy Color. Here, much of the core gameplay and mechanics were retained, with some minor tweaks. There's now a reticle that can help you properly aim at the enemies. In addition to the green fireball attack, you can now hold down the A button and Godzilla rapid fires consecutive fireballs, but this does lower your fire meter on the bottom right hand corner of the screen. The guard mechanic also returns, and you can guard as long as you want, but the meter no longer refills automatically like before. Here you have to destroy enemies and get power-ups to fill the guard meter back up. The same applies to the fire meter too. By hitting the left D-pad, Godzilla can also stop moving and stand in place. Sure, why not? Now the last game was fairly easy, but its sluggish pace made it hard to play through. Here, we get the same sluggish pace, but the game is much harder. There are more enemies, and they are more unforgiving. Godzilla's head also feels a little slower, but that could just be me imagining things. This is pathetic to admit, but I couldn't beat a single level. The enemy AI was brutal. I tried and tried, but I kept getting overwhelmed by non-stop enemy swarms. I even used a level skip code to jump ahead, and it was the same story. I got absolutely wrecked. I didn't even get to fight a single boss. But honestly, the game never gave me a reason to want to push forward. This is virtually the same game, just way more difficult. These two Godzilla the series games, they're not very good, or even that enjoyable. Now finally we are here, the Pipeworks Godzilla trilogy. We start with Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee, which came out for the GameCube in 2002. This is when we get to the Godzilla games I grew up with. Out of all the Godzilla games in this video, this is the one that I played the most. This opening, by the way, is iconic. I love it. In adventure mode, aliens called the Vortak take control over all the monsters, but one breaks free, which is the one you choose. I chose Megalon because he is my favorite Godzilla monster, and he's definitely my best character in this game. You go through 8 levels which take place in real-world cities, such as LA, London, Osaka, Tokyo, and you get the idea. The final level is at the Vortax's mothership, where you fight Mechagodzilla, or Mecha King Ghidorah if you're doing adventure mode with Mechagodzilla. You beat their ultimate weapon, and the Vortak leave, vowing to return. Let's talk about roster and gameplay. In the GameCube version, which is the version you're currently seeing gameplay for, there are 11 playable monsters here, each with unique special beams and abilities, aside from Godzilla 90s and Godzilla 2000. The game also has Orga as a playable monster, which was cool considering how new of a monster he was in 2002. Also, as a kid, I always got distracted by something dumb. If you pause the game while a monster is doing an energy attack, the beam keeps flickering on the pause screen. Same with the green shield barriers. If you get hit and pause, your monster keeps flickering green. I don't know why, but I always thought this was such a cool touch when I was younger. The combat in this game is fairly nuanced. There are light attacks, heavy attacks, you can block, throw buildings, throw monsters, and you use your ranged beam attacks. For blocking, you can block normally and you can block low too. This can help block monsters from sweeping your legs when you block low. When you successfully block moves, you can punish your opponents. I always punish my opponents by grabbing and throwing. In this game, I am a degenerate with that stuff. I mean, I just bully the AI, on hard mode no less, by simply exploiting the blocking mechanic. The game can be pretty fun when you know all the mechanics. The game also features some power-ups such as health, energy, Mothra airstrike, and most importantly, each monster has a unique rage mode, so it's nice and there is some variety. There's also the Atari logo you can collect by destroying a certain building on medium or hard mode, which helps you unlock items in the gallery section, but I already have everything unlocked. There are a lot of game modes, but unfortunately on the GameCube you can only play Adventure, Versus, and Survival mode, if you're playing by yourself of course. To access Melee, Team Battle, and Destruction, you need human players to join you, otherwise it's inaccessible. In Survival mode, you pick a stage and battle monsters until you lose all your health. Between each round, you do get a little health back. I absolutely love the GameCube version, and it's the one that I'm most comfortable with, but in 2003, the game was ported to the original Xbox. You can see my copy is the original because it has the Only for GameCube logo on the cover. The Xbox version is objectively the best version of the game. It includes Mechagodzilla 3 in the roster, so yes, the Xbox roster is now 12, and there are 2 new maps, the Vortax's homeworld and the boxing ring. You can also access all the game modes, because now the game adds computers for you to play with. The game also has a serious graphical update, really showcasing the difference of power between the GameCube and Xbox. Mechagodzilla 3 is sort of a reskin of the Heisei Mechagodzilla, but his moves are a little different, and his beam is also different too. His rage is the absolute zero cannon attack, so it's not fair to call him 100% reskin. And by the way, Mechagodzilla in the GameCube version is now called Mechagodzilla 2. I still find myself always playing the GameCube version, only because the controller is so comfortable to play with, and it's also the version of the game I've been playing since the game was released. But the Xbox version is the definitive version you want to experience when playing. It looks better, has another monster, more modes to play when you are by yourself, and it also has new maps too. We are going to get to the sequels, but Destroy All Monsters Melee, to me, is the best game in the Atari trilogy. Also in 2002, we got this, Godzilla Domination for the Game Boy Advance. The game features 6 playable monsters: Godzilla, Megalon, Ghidorah, Rodan, Mothra, and Mechagodzilla. The game's story mode follows this reporter as she tracks a meteorite across 8 different levels that have a variety of challenges in each level. Some range from you fighting another monster to you fighting 2 monsters, and even a 1-on-3. Let me tell you, that wasn't any fair. At the end, you fight Mecha King Ghidorah, who is huge. Look at the size of this guy. But he is fairly easy to beat. Each monster also has their own rage moves, like Godzilla has his atomic breath, Megalon can drill underground, Mechagodzilla shoots missiles, and so on. Overall, this game is kind of fun. It's no substitute for the console game, but for a handheld, it is pretty enjoyable. It's fast-paced, colorful, and pretty straightforward. This is probably the best Godzilla handheld game, which really isn't saying much, but that's just how I feel. You can also do custom mode and play as any monster against the monster you want to fight. I only wish there were more monsters to pick from because you fight against the same monsters in every level of the story mode. But I can't blame them for picking Mothra, Ghidorah, Rodan, and Mechagodzilla, which are the only monsters to appear in every era of Godzilla movies. So yeah, check it out if you want. Up next is Godzilla Save the Earth for both PS2 and the original Xbox. There isn't any difference between both versions aside from the PS2 version having the Godzilla Final Wars Gallery title in English, while the Xbox has it in Japanese. For this review, I mostly use footage from the PS2. This game builds on the roster from the first one and includes 7 new monsters, 6 if you don't consider Mechagodzilla 3 new. We now have Mothra, who was a power-up in the last game, Mechaguirus, Baragon, Jet Jaguar, Mogira, and lastly, Space Godzilla. And yes, I am aware that Biollante is technically in the game, but you can only access her if you hack the PS2. I'm a dummy and I don't know how to do that, so look online for that. We also get Batra, Ibira, and Millennium, but they are all unplayable. One cool thing in this game is that it lists the stats for each monster and tells you what they inflict, what they resist, and what they are weak against. The other game did have this, but it wasn't explicitly shown like how it is here. It is a cool touch. It also introduces beam locks, which is when both monsters fire their beams simultaneously and you have to press some buttons to win, but I'm pretty terrible and I always lose. It is a cool new addition though. You can also catch buildings that are thrown at you and you can redirect them back. The game's action mode or story mode it's alright. It's pretty standard, and I am aware there was more planned, but it got stripped down because the development team didn't have a whole lot of time. You fight different monsters across different locations, but the main objective is to defeat the other monsters. You can also collect 5 G cells, which really doesn't do anything story-wise, other than slightly adding to your points at the end of the level. Interspersed between these levels are challenges, which range from a variety of objectives like destroying battleships in a certain amount of time, or basketball? Yeah, whatever this is. Yeah, it's a little weird, and some of it is just annoying. It's not terrible where the challenges are insufferable, but it's also not that well done. But Godzilla has 2 special challenges, such as a UFO showdown with 3 versions of Orga, and an underwater level where you battle Ibira in a Vortex sub. Mogira gets a special flying level where you fight Space Godzilla in space. If you beat the action mode on hard, you get this cool cinematic ending, where Space Godzilla's shoulder crystals get blown up and you get sucked back into a black hole. Pretty cool. However, while this game does have more to offer both monster and content-wise, the gameplay does feel overall slower. Like, significantly slower than Destroy All Monsters. And that is really a shame because this easily could have been the best Godzilla game at the time. And while I do like that the maps are more diverse and do look better, the slower gameplay kinda kills some of the experience for me. But it doesn't kill it enough for me to not enjoy it because I do love this game and I played a lot as a kid, but I did play Destroy All Monsters more because I had a GameCube and not a PS2. The game also has a whole slew of gallery art, including stills and production images from Godzilla Final Wars, which is especially cool because this game was released before Godzilla Final Wars was released in Japan. But overall, this is a worthy sequel that does have its flaws, but it also has enough variety of monsters and content to still make it enjoyable. I know I said Destroy All Monsters Melee is the best of the trilogy, but I still do like this one a lot, and I do waver on which one is truly better objectively. So I love both of these games. And by the way, the opening cinematic is, it's amazing. I love it. It's iconic. So check out Save the Earth. Oh boy, this is when it gets fun. Godzilla Unleashed for the Wii and PS2 are notorious in the Godzilla community. I remember all the commercials for the Wii version back in 2007, including the website they had where they would show off new monsters added to the game. So for young me, the hype was real. But when I played the game on Christmas Day 2007, I was sorta disappointed. I'd always go back and play Destroy All Monsters instead of this. The game's story follows the return of Vortak, and the monsters are broken up into different factions. The Earth Defenders, the Global Defense Force, the Mutants, and the Aliens. Each faction has their own objectives, such as the Earth Defenders and GDF freeing monsters possessed by these crystals here, while the Mutants and Aliens would defeat the monsters with this ability. Also, destroying buildings and the army makes the meters for the Mutants and Aliens go up, while the good guys' meter goes down. You get the idea. The story mode can last about 16 to 20 levels depending on the faction you play as, but for me, there are two fatal flaws this game has. The first is the look of the game. It's pretty ugly and is generally a step down from Save the Earth. This new crystal design influence on each level is really uninspired and dull. But by far the biggest problem with the game is the terrible controls. This game has the gimmicky Wii controls. You have to do certain motions to run, jump, pick up monsters, fight, but the controls are mostly unresponsive. Here, I'm trying to pick up this highlighted building, but it kept making me jump. It's really annoying and it kills the game for me. The Wii version does have 8 new monsters, including Biollante, King Caesar, the Showa Mechagodzilla, Varan, Titanosaurus, Godzilla 1954, and 2 new monsters created for this game, Crystalac and Obsidius. Other changes include calling Godzilla 90s from the previous 2 games to calling him Godzilla 1990. Godzilla 2000 is now simply called Godzilla, Rodan is now Fire Rodan, Gigan has his Millennium design, Mechagodzilla 3 is now Kiryu, and the Ghidorahs have the Millennium design too. It's really fun to play as these new characters, but again, the controls kill all of the enjoyment. It's just too wonky and unreliable. Destroya in the game is really broken too. Apparently it's a programming error, but as you can see, you can use his Horn Katana move for the whole game. It does not deplete any of his energy at all, so you can spam it endlessly and it does so much damage. I mean look, I took out Godzilla's 5 blocks of health on hard mode in 26 seconds. Other changes include the health. This game now has 4 to 6 blocks of health, depending on the monster, and each block of health acts like 1 health bar. You lose all your health for 1 block, you lose that block for the rest of the match. When you smash a health crystal, you regain health only for the current block of health, not for the ones that you have lost. It's quite a change because this new health system really slows the game down. The Wii version also gets rid of rages from the previous 2 games. Instead, you attack enough crystals and your critical mass goes up and your monster grows. That's really it. Save the Earth had 16 stages, with some being really big and unique, and you can change the time of day on all but one of the stages. In Unleashed, we get 9 stages, and while they are large, it feels so barren and doesn't have any personality. It's just crystals everywhere. One cool thing you can do in this game is move around freely when you use your energy beam. This is a nice touch, and I'm surprised it took them this long to do so. Now it's time for the controversial PS2 version. This game is a reskin of Godzilla Save the Earth. A Godzilla Save the Earth 2.0, if you will. While it has the ugliness of the Wii version, the core mechanics and gameplay are the same as Save the Earth. In this game, Biollante, Showa Mechagodzilla, Titanosaurus, Godzilla 1954, Varan, and Crystalac are all removed. Instead, Obsidius stays and we get Batra. Both of these monsters here are just reskins of Orga and Mothra respectively. So if you're counting, the Wii version has 26 monsters and the PS2 has 20. The PS2 also has the Heisei Ghidorah design and the Showa Gigan design. Since Biollante is not in the game, the cover art has the same Godzilla pose as the Wii version, but now Gigan is on it. One annoying thing about this game is the AI. For the first quarter of the match, the AI is on point, especially on hard mode. But nearly halfway through the game, the AI turns off and the enemy monsters act like dummies. I'm not kidding, look at this. Why is he letting me do this? And like I said earlier, it is cool to have Batra as a playable character, but he's just a shameless reskin of Mothra. And I guess they got away with that because that's what Batra is, but even his larva form attacks and moves the same as Mothra's larva form, which is where they are the most different in the movies. So you saw both the Wii and PS2 version of Godzilla Unleashed. So which one is better? Both are significantly worse than their predecessors, but I might lean towards the PS2 version only because the controls are so much better. Yes, it's a lame reskin of Save the Earth with very minor changes, but the fights are faster and the controls work. To me, bad controls can ruin any game, and Godzilla Unleashed on the Wii is no exception. The PS2 version isn't good or even as well polished as the Wii, but the Wii version is just a mess with its gimmicky controls, and it's a shame. It could have been the best Godzilla game at the time. It has a cool roster, but they really should have had the Wii motion controls as an option. Make it so you can play with a GameCube or even a Wii Classic controller. Both Destroy All Monsters Melee and Save the Earth are better than these games, which is a shame. Moving on. Next is our first and only Godzilla game on the Nintendo DS. Godzilla Unleashed Double Smash came out the same day as the PS2 version in 2007. And like the Wii version, I also got this when it came out, and I played it a good amount as a kid. Now you have to excuse this poor quality because I don't have any kind of capture card for the DS, so this is the best I can do using the physical game cartridge. But I did manage to record the audio perfectly from the game, so it is what it is. Much like the Wii and PS2 version, this game follows basically the same story, except there's a father and son dynamic that I skipped because I could care less about these cutscenes. The final showdown in the game is at Monster Island where you fight Space Godzilla instead of fighting him in New York City. But as the title suggests, you control two monsters, one for the top screen and one for the bottom. The game is a mindless side-scrolling adventure where you have to defeat the small enemies who constantly shoot and drop bombs on you. I mean, look at this! Look how cluttered the screen is! For each level there are two bosses. The first is usually a small grunt, and the second is the bigger monster that usually takes up two screens. The game has 10 playable monsters, 5 for each screen. Each monster has their own beam, and if you can collect these blue orbs and fill up this meter, you can tap the screen and each monster will be able to do a surge attack. Other than that, the controls are pretty straightforward. You hit the L and R button to swap from the top screen to the bottom. The game also mixes up some of the roars for the monsters. For example, Titanosaurus has Hedorah's roar, Ibira has Batra's, Manda has Titanosaurus's, and Hedorah has Ibira's. It's kind of crazy how they mix that all up. Also, in the Monster Manifest, it says Titanosaurus' first appearance was in the Mysterians from 1957, but this is very, very wrong. If I am being honest, the game isn't terrible. It's pretty monotonous, and the monster designs are these weird cel-shaded creatures, but it serves as a decent distraction for an hour or so. I would usually play this game as a kid on long car rides, but the same recycled enemies and the audio can be a little grating. Overall, it's not unplayable, but it's not very good. But I did really enjoy this game as a kid. So...
Next.
Here we have Godzilla on the PS3. This is actually just the Japanese version of the PS3 game. My copy is a digital download. So I got this in 2015 and I played it for a long time. In this game, you go through levels as Godzilla as you destroy generators with an annoying G-Force worker narrating everything you do.
Second squad, begin your assault.
The goal is to achieve 100% destruction on every level, and the God of Destruction mode is 9 levels, 10 if you get over 100 meters in height. To achieve this, you collect energy clusters, which is what you get when you destroy buildings. At the start of the game, Godzilla is 50 meters tall. Typically in each level, you fight a monster at the end. And that's really it. Rinse and repeat for 10 levels. So as you can see, this is an improved gameplay version of Godzilla Generations. But you can actually attack, and there's more of an emphasis on combat. But as everyone knows, the game is very repetitive with its levels and even combat. Each level you destroy a generator, then you fight an enemy. You do the same thing every single level. And to the people who hate this game, they have a point because it is very monotonous. Since this is the PS3 version, you can play as Godzilla on the God of Destruction mode. This means that you beat other monsters to get their cells to help you only evolve Godzilla. In this game, there's also a diorama mode. You can pose figures and bases you collect throughout the story mode and take pictures of them. Sure, why not? I actually got all the trophies for this game when I was recording, which was pretty cool. Going into this, I was missing 3 trophies. The Season Director Trophy, which makes you shoot 100 scenes in diorama mode. So here I am speedrunning through it. I was missing the Perfect Being Trophy too, which was to complete all of the evolutions for Godzilla. And the last one was collecting all the figures, and I got all of it on camera, including the Platinum. Pretty cool, right? So how is the game? Well, it does feel a little incomplete. It has a decent monster roster, but you can only play as Godzilla, which is a letdown. The game is very repetitive and can be annoying, especially when this G-Force worker here says the same thing every game. Overall, it's fine, but a year later we did get another version.
Godzilla has reached Zone 3.
And finally, the last game on our list, Godzilla on the PS4. Much like Godzilla 2 for the NES, this game is pretty expensive. I got it years ago as a gift, and even then it was expensive. This game is pretty infamous, as most fans seem to genuinely like it, but the game is universally panned by casual gamers and critics alike. For me, I actually kinda love this game. As you can probably see throughout the video, I am a lifelong Godzilla fan, so it's great to have a game that moves and sounds like the Heisei era, which is the era I grew up with on VHS, and it's also my favorite. In the PS4 version, the core gameplay is the same as the PS3 one, but now we have a versus mode, which is online play, where it's a 3-person free-for-all. Kinda unfair that it's 3 people, but it's still a cool mode. The PS4 version has 6 exclusive monsters: Godzilla 1964, Mechagodzilla 1974, Space Godzilla, Mecha King Ghidorah, Anguirus, and Rodan. But the biggest and best difference is that all of the monsters are playable in every game mode, not just Godzilla. For God of Destruction mode, there are 3 versions. Go Ashore, which is from the PS3 version and is Godzilla going through the levels. Invade, which is where you play as enemy monsters and go through the story mode like Godzilla would, destroying generators and all. And lastly, there's Defend, where you control the mechas and you have to defeat the enemy monster before they cause too much damage and destroy the generators. So finally, we have variety in this game. The game also looks way better on the PS4, which is a given because it is a newer console, but the graphical difference between the PS3 and PS4 version is kind of insane. The controls are a little different from the PS3 to PS4. The energy button has been moved from circle to triangle, and you can now roar and use your energy beam. It's honestly so great to be able to play as the monsters with their movie-accurate moves. You can do the G-Crusher as Mechagodzilla 2, you can do whatever this move is. It's just a great attention to detail for the monsters. The gameplay and the flaws from the PS3 version are here, but at least the PS4 version lets you play as different monsters and you have different objectives, so at least there is more variety for the player. We finally get to play as Hedorah and even a true Batra, both the larva and Imago form. My favorite mode is to defend because Mecha King Ghidorah is pretty OP. Look at my combo, it's so cool. I'm also in the exclusive Club Platinum for the game. It really is a grind to evolve all the monsters and get the countless cells from defeating the other monsters, but for this, the Platinum does feel worth it. There really isn't much else to say. I truly enjoyed this game, flaws and all, and it definitely caters to the Godzilla fans and isn't really meant for casual gamers. And a lot of the criticisms people do have are valid, but I feel like the PS4 version makes up for the flaws with its cast of monsters and movie-like gameplay. At least to me, this is all I ever really wanted out of a Godzilla game. It's not perfect, but I sure do enjoy it. Well, that's the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and while I covered most of the Godzilla games, I still have these 3 that I didn't get to. But don't worry, I'll do a follow-up somewhere down the road that focuses on the 3 games that I missed, and I'll definitely add more. So thanks for watching, and subscribe if you like this different kind of content. Until next time.